Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another tag. This is the new makeup releases The Tag. This was created by Samantha March and Angelica Nyquist, and I did do this one last year. Really excited to do it again, see what I think about this year's releases and see if anything, how things compare to last year. I tried a lot of makeup this year, although I think a little bit less than last year and definitely way less than Samantha or Angelica would. But it's really nice to spend December to sit down and reflect on things. I also have to film my best of videos for the year, which will be going up way before this, but you will see some probably similar products if you've already seen that video. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Colin. I'm a non-binary Latinx scientist and lover of makeup. And I definitely love indie makeup and high-end makeup, which you will see a bunch of here today. And I tend to take a pretty analytical approach to the content I make, be it reviewing things and trying things for the first time, or just talking about things that I know and love. And I have new videos every week, especially right now I have something pretty much every day, so I'd love to have you subscribe. This is 9 questions, should be fairly easy. I do have a lot of products in front of me. I know I could insert photos or just talk about things, but since I have a lot of these, I did want to pull them out so I could show you. If you're curious about my makeup, this video will be going live well before this. I'm planning on putting this up near the end of the month, and this video was a collaboration with Makeup Just for Fun that's going up on the 10th. So that will be already live and I'll have that linked above. Yeah, so let's get into this. But if you are interested in what's on my face, a lot of it is actually things that I'm going to talk about. So we'll talk about that as we go. So question 1 is, what mainstream release lived up to the hype most this year? So I have a bunch of things that I think lived up to the hype. These are all things that are probably going to be on my best of list. So spoiler alerts if you haven't already watched that, but I have a bunch of stuff. So one of the first things that I thought of that had a lot of hype and I think 100% lived up to it for me was the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. So I have a whole video on this explaining why the theme and color story means a lot to me and what all the shade name means. But I just love this. I think this is a really good desaturated, more muted color story. It's colorful but also neutral, and if you, like me, have an olive undertone, it's like the perfect palette. So I just love it. I also really appreciate that she incorporated like a blue-based green, some warm tones, and then the shimmers in here are so beautiful. They're indie level, sparkly, really nice shades. So I think this had a lot of hype being a quote-unquote green palette. I don't think of it as green palette, it's olive. But a lot of this is more olive, yellowy olive neutral, like, olive tones, not necessarily green. But I think this had a lot of hype and I think definitely lived up to it. The palette that got a lot of hype this year from Natasha Denona was the I Need a Nude. And I think this also deserves all of the hype. It's a really beautiful, everyday, soft color story. I do wish there were a couple of tweaks, like a couple shades are pretty similar, like these two. I wish this was a little darker, so it was more inclusive, but I really love this. This is a go-to for me. I love the wet effect, like more sheer, sparkly shades that are in here. And I definitely think she's changed her formula this year. They don't swatch as well, but I think they all perform even better, so really happy with both of these. Okay, and then a couple more things that I think definitely lived up to the hype. The next one is the Urban Decay Moondust palette. And I know this was very hyped because this took me a while to get. It kept selling out like instantly and disappearing from my cart as I was checking out, which I haven't had happen from like, I've had indie, like small indie brand palettes do that, but I've never had something from like Sephora do that. But I love this. I already had Space Cowboy as a single one. This is slightly different, but I don't care. I really love this. I've been using this a lot, especially for work looks and everyday looks. I'll put a little bronzer in my crease, throw one of these on, call it a day. I just really like this. I have Wild Dipper, which is a very different shade than Wild Dipper Rides Again. This one's a little pink, so it's my least used, but it is really pretty. Star Cowgirl is kind of like forget the name of it right now, but they have an existing shade that's almost white, and this is a little more yellow leaning, so it's better for my skin tone and like undertones. And then Cosmic Space Dust is like a taupey brown, but not as dark as Lithium, which Lithium's one of my favorites. So really love this. Think this is definitely worth the hype. I want Urban Decay to do more stuff like this. A couple more things that I think got a lot of hype and I think were well deserved are, two of them are concealers. So one is the House Labs concealer and one is the Givenchy concealer. So these are very different shades, obviously. I'm actually wearing both of these today. I'm wearing this as a brightening under eye shade and this as my foundation, like around here, around my mouth, around my nose, jawline. That's it, I don't have anything on my forehead. But this is the Prism Libre Skin Caring Concealer. This was so hyped early this year. I think it was early this year. And I really love it. I have two shades, one for my under eyes, one for my face. Really love it. I've made a big dent in these. I feel like this one is almost gone. And then this came out this fall and I think is even, I love the foundation, but I like this even more. I wear this every day. I've almost emptied this already. I already have a second one to use because this is almost gone. I can probably get a few more weeks out of it, but it's pretty low. And I wanted to back up for when this is gone while it was on sale. And I love this. It's a little thicker. This is a little lighter weight in consistency, but pigment-wise similar. This is a little thicker, but it just melts into the skin nicely. It's very smoothing. It's really blurring. I love this. I think this is the best concealer of the year. And then a couple other things that I saw hyped a lot. Maybe not in the indie community, but just in general. And those are the new Victoria Beckham eyewear. These are her eyeshadow sticks. I only have one. I've had it for a few weeks now and I really do like it. I think the hype is definitely worth it. I want more shades. I also saw a lot of hype for her contour stylist that came out this year. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, you don't get very much product, but it's really nice. The formula is really beautiful and I like how little it is so you can really draw where you want it. I am wearing this today. And then the last couple mainstream things that I just had to mention are the YSL Candy Glaze. These have been very hyped and I love them. I have two shades. I have Nude Pleasure 04, which is a nice warm nude. And I have Scenic Brown shade 14. I just love these. I know some people think they're a little too thick. I think but they sheer out really well. So you can get like a really dark, I think they say you need like 6 clicks for a lip. I think you need like 2. You can go really opaque and really dark or kind of sheer. Just really lovely formula. Feels nice, lasts really well on the lips. And I just love it. I think it's worth the money. I mean, I have 2 and I want more. Okay, so the next question is the same, but what indie releases lived up to the hype this most? As you can see, I really like high-end makeup, like I said, but I also really love indie, especially indie eyeshadow, and I have a bunch of things in front of me. The first one that I thought of that really lived up to the hype was the Nomad Ghost Town USA. I think I saw a lot of comments on this. I saw a lot of people excited for this. I had a lot of comments on my video that were excited for this, and I think this is maybe the best palette they've done. I don't know. I did rank my Nomad video palettes already, but this is just so good. I think the desaturated tones of this are really beautiful. So you can go really neutral, you can go kind of blue or green, but it's like a little, it's desaturated, so it's a little easier to wear. You've got some pinky purples in here. The shimmers in here are, I think, the best they've ever done, and the mattes are always great as always. So this had to be something that I thought of. The other things that I thought of were the Trixie Horse Girl palette and the Odin's Eye summer palettes. So Trixie Horse Girl, this is the first Trixie Cosmetics palette that I've ever seen sell out. I mean, like over time they all sell out, but like, or go out of stock, but this like sold out in like a minute and a half. Like it was insane. I did finally get mine and I love it. I think this is worth all of the hype, all of the money. I think she changed the formulas slightly, but for the better, and the shimmers in here are really beautiful. And this duochrome shade down here, like, yeah, it's not the most unique color, although I don't really have anything else like this. I have maybe 1 or 2 that are similar to this, but I think really beautiful. You've got some pinks, some like pinky corals, you've got some more neutral, warm neutrals, you've got some terracotta shades here and like a clay shade, nice brown shimmer. It's just really beautiful, 100% worth the hype. And I think also at the same time underhyped. Like I think Trixie as a whole is underhyped as a brand, but this one received a lot of hype and I think it's definitely worth it. And I'm excited to see Trixie Cosmetics get more. The other 2 things that I thought of were the 2 Odin's Eye palettes that came out this summer / spring. I really like these. I think I still like the Odin's Eye palettes from Christmas last year more, especially the Christmas Eve one, but I really, really like these. So you've got a green palette and a cool tone palette. The cool tone palette is like cool neutrals. You've got some rosy tones, but you've also got some blue purples, really beautiful shifty shimmers. And then this is like your all-around green palette versus Natasha Denona's is like olive. This is kind of an olivey brown and an olive green, and then you've got like a more yellow green here. This one's pretty olive. You've got a blue green shimmer, you've got a sagey shimmer, you've got a true green shimmer. So you've got like a nice mix. I think these are really well done, and I think the best thing that they did this year. Okay, so the next question is, what releases did not live up to the hype? And this was hard for me because I didn't try too many things that I was like, oh yeah, this sucks, this isn't worth the hype. All of the things that I tried that I was like, this seems pretty hyped, I've enjoyed. The one thing that I've seen only good things about, but I hated, is the Alter Ego Mirage palette. So I was sent 2 palettes from Alter Ego and PR, and I did not like this at all. I've tried to use this twice now. One of them is filmed and will go up way before this video. And the shimmers are just really bad. I don't understand all of the glowing reviews of this. The mattes were fine. The cream shadows / eyeliners down here were really nice until you start touching the shimmers and they explode. They don't have enough base to them, so they just kind of exploded and were chalky, and now there's like sparkle everywhere, and I just don't think, I did not like the shimmers in this. The mattes are fine. They're nice, especially for a $20 palette, $24 palette, but the shimmers being as bad as they are, I can't with this, and I don't understand the hype or the people who say that it's just as good as like a high-end palette. Like it's just not. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to Alter Ego for sending this to me and me not liking it, but I don't think it's good. The mattes are good. The mattes are fine. The cream shadow works pretty well, but the shimmers, which is like half the palette, they are bad. What was a curveball or the biggest curveball this year? I didn't really have any makeup curveballs for me. Like nothing where I was like shocked at how good something was when I thought it would be bad or anything like that, which is what I think I talked about last year. But I think we did see some curveballs in the makeup community. Like I was very surprised to see Morphe I think Morphe declaring bankruptcy makes sense to me, and I'm not surprised. But I also think it's such a big, well-known brand that also had multiple brands underneath it. So that was a little bit shocking for the community at large. I've only tried a couple Morphe things, didn't like it. Didn't really think the brand was worth the price or the hype. So seeing them declare bankruptcy was like, you know, like a big shock and a big shockwave through the beauty community, but also like not entirely like surprising at the same time. I think people just became aware that it just wasn't really worth the quality, and there's just better out there for the same price, if not, you know, cheaper or slightly more or whatever. The other things that I wrote down for this are Kaleidos only launching neutrals this year. For the last, I think this started last year. They did do some pretty lipsticks and they did do some multi-chrome eyeliners and stuff, but for a brand whose tagline is like, makeup on the bright side or something like that, and they've had such colorful things. They did the collab with Angelica. There's, you know, the Escape Pod, all of the little smaller palettes, the Futurism palettes. Those have almost all been discontinued, and everything they've released for the last year or so has been like neutral quads that aren't really that different from each other, and I love their formula. I love them as a brand. I think they make really great products, but just like shifting to kind of pale, like neutral quads was just like a thing I did not expect them to do. Like they did it once and I was like, okay, cool. And then they did it again and I was like, really? That's what you're doing this year? Like, I guess if it's selling well, good for them. I am very picky about a quad, and a lot of theirs are like a look. Like you have a light shade, like a pale inner corner or a transition shade for pale skin, a mid-tone shade, a dark shade, and a shimmer. And they just does not interest me. Really excited to see if they, you know, launch something new and exciting next year, but them shifting to that, and then they had those like really pale blushes that like aren't gonna show up on like basically anyone. I just feel that was a curveball for me, the way Kaleidos has like shifted this year. And then I don't know if this is curveball or not, but seeing the way Michaela has grown and like the controversy around her and the mascara gate. I don't remember if that was this year or last year, but like after mascara gate, then still having all of these collabs. Like she did the Glam Light collab, 2 Glam Light collabs, but now she's got the P. Louise one, which is giant and like unnecessary. Like she's got the new P. Louise collab that's giant and unnecessary and could be, you know, cut down to like a 9-pan palette probably instead of 50 or whatever it is. And she had like the elf thing for her wedding and her lipstick. Like she's really milking the wedding thing, and like good for her, make money, but also like P. Louise, not a brand I'd really want to collab with. And it just feels, people have such a lot of very mixed emotions about her. So seeing her get all these collabs and still be huge while also people so angry, it's just a weird, I don't know if it's a curveball, but it's a weird situation. So question 5 is, what was the biggest letdown or snooze fest of the year? So I have a few things written down. I don't think, there was a lot of things that I was like, not really a letdown, but like, that's fine. I don't need it. I feel like the vast majority of releases that happened this year were, meh, that's okay. Or that's pretty, I don't need it. Someone else can I'm glad someone else likes it. That's kind of my mindset for most makeup I see. But I do think I was disappointed in the Pat holiday launch. I really like her Makeup Motherships. I have the first 3. Last year's was okay. I love the first 2. I was kind of hoping for something like that. So, but having like the 2 with the blushes and was just kind of like, I don't need this. So that was like, not necessarily a snooze fest, and it wasn't a letdown in like quality, but it was like, I wanted something more exciting than this. I also think as far as snooze fest, the giant, like I said, the giant P. Louise Michaela collab, it's like cool neutrals and blues and whites, but that's like, why do you need like 4 different white shades? Like it's just unnecessary and boring because of that. I'm trying to think of other things that I saw that I was just like, that's what you chose? The Kimchi monochromatic palettes. I like Kimchi as a drag queen a lot. I've seen her. I have tried the brand a handful of times. Some of it I really like, some of it meh. Her eyeshadows are fine. They're good quality for a drugstore brand. But like 9-pan monochromatic palettes was a weird launch. Like Huda's has done them, ColourPop's done them. A lot of people have done them. Can we move past that? And then the things that I saw that I was like hopeful for, like each time where I was like, ooh, is this gonna be something I'm excited for? And then I was like, no, I don't need that, were the Blend Bunny launches this year, or most of them. I only have their first palette, and it's okay. It's not my favorite, but I'm always like excited to see what they're gonna do and if it's gonna be something I'm gonna wanna try and see if I like the formula more, if they've changed things, so on. But each one has been like, yeah, no, I can skip that. I think there was one that was like water themed, it was blue, and there was multi-chromes that came out with that. That was really beautiful and mildly tempting, but also like, I didn't need that. The neutrals, that was like big pans, was like too cool tone, and they were like, this is makeup art, like a makeup artist could use this for your eye, you can use this for your eyes and your face, and it was like, yes, but not everyone could. Like, this is very much like a pale person eye and face palette. And then the Odin's Eye holiday launches, I would love last year's, and I was really excited to see what they did this year, and doing like kind of pale tone winter pastels was not what I expected, not what I wanted. So I was glad to save some money. And then seeing so many people say that like the one special shade in one is a holographic shade and it's like bad. Like, I think that was a big letdown. I think Odin's Eye really peaked. I didn't try the Angelica Halloween ones because the color stories didn't really speak to me, but I think Odin's Eye really peaked this year with these two. I do think Angelica's palettes were really pretty. It was just more of a, I don't need these. So they weren't a letdown. It was just like, those are pretty. I hope people like them. I don't need them. Okay, number 6 is what was the unsung hero of 2022? So I think there's plenty of sung heroes. Like, I think this was pretty hyped. This, you know, all those hyped things, these are definitely heroes for me. Thinking of unsung heroes, I think it got a decent amount of hype, but a lot of people bagged on it for saying that it was boring. I think the Byredo Remembrance palette is one of my favorite palettes of the year. And I think everyone who tries it has said that they've loved it, but I think most people are like, it's boring, I'm not gonna try it. And I think that puts it squarely in this category of an unsung hero, because I think it's a beautiful palette, great color story. Neutral, yes, but I like neutrals. You've got, you know, some really sparkly shades as well. You've got some really good, like, one and done smoky looks. You've got some more orangey tones. You've got some, like, peachy pinks. You've got some more rosy browns. I think it's a really beautiful color story that was slept on by a lot of people. I mean, it is also very expensive, so I understand sleeping on it, but I think that was not as hyped or well received as it could have been. I think in the same vein, I think people have mixed reactions and views on this brand. I love it, but I think the Isamaya Industrial 2 didn't get enough hype. So I think that, and it's so good. So I think that should definitely be in here. I think this is, again, one of my favorite palettes of the year. It's another really expensive palette, more colorful, all shimmer, really unique formulas in here, really beautiful colors. I think this deserved more hype, and I think some people are still mad about the phallic lipsticks. And I think that's stupid to be mad about as well. But I think this is just one of the best palettes that's come out in a long time. I think it's beautiful. I think I'm really excited to see what they do next year. I did order the new lip balms that they launched that are like the refillable part of those phallic lipsticks. So I don't have the case, but I do have the new lips, and those are on the way to me, and they'll probably, me trying those out will happen before this goes live, but I think those are supposed to be delivered in 2 days. I have 2 more things to this one. I think something that hasn't gotten a lot of hype, I've seen some people, everyone I've seen try it has really liked them, and I've seen really good positive, like, ooh, those are really pretty in the comments and stuff, but like if you look at the comments on Trendmood and just like seeing the number of people actually trying this, I think the Esom palettes deserve way more hype. So I've only had these for like a week and a half, 2 weeks? I've had these for 2 weeks. And I've used them a bunch of times already. And I think that the formula here is really beautiful. The reason I think people are not hyping them as much as they could is because, again, they're really expensive. So this is the all matte palette and it is $80. And I think it's a really beautiful all matte palette. I don't have another one like this, so I'm really happy to have it. I think it's similar to the like Viseart formula in that it's a little buildable, but just blends effortlessly. Really beautiful kind of makeup artist focused brand. I mean, you can also see that in the packaging because you can just hold it. There's no mirror. I think the price is what deters people, but you can hype something out without buying it. And then the shimmer palettes are $120 a piece. But I mean, also this was $100 and so is this, although this is much bigger. These are just exceptional shimmers. Like, I can't wait to try more. I did buy these as a bundle, so I did not spend I spent $150 on all of it. But I think these are just exceptional shimmers and really beautiful, and I think deserve more hype, especially the fact that they're magnetic. You can move them around, you can build your own. I feel like these are just really great quality, and they've already become staples for me, and I feel like I haven't seen enough people talk about them. And then the last unsung hero, which is not really unsung, is, and I just needed to put this in somewhere, and this is the only place I could really think to put it, and it is the Pat McGrath Sunlit Seduction. So I think a lot of people are going to put this in their did not live up to the hype or were disappointed, whatever category. I think this is a really beautiful palette and really underrated. People saw it and said, it's exactly the same as everything else she's done. It's not, and I have swatches to show you that. But I think people saw this one rose here and this one pink shimmer and said, it's all pink. Kind of like, I've ranted about this before, but Divine Rose 1 is not a pink palette. People said it's exactly the same as Divine Rose. Divine Rose is like mauve-y cool neutrals with a bronze. Like, it's very much not that pink. I think having rose in the name makes people think it's pink, even though it's not actually pink. And this isn't that pink. It has two pink shades. It has a red, yes, but red is not pink. You've got a couple of neutrals. You've got some really nice warm neutral bronzes. This is a warm neutrals palette. You've got one of the prettiest like peachy colors right here. And then you've got a pretty purple. It's not as exciting as her special shades could be, but it is really beautiful. And I just think this is hated, unnecessarily hated, and I've talked about that before, and I felt like it had to be in here. Like, it's not my favorite palette of the year, but it is a really good palette, and I'm really happy I have it. And I think it's kind of hated, and people are really mad about it for no reason. And I have almost all of her motherships, and I think people, I've said this before, I think people don't really understand that they're the same. Like, I saw someone say it's exactly the same as this, and they put them side by side, and it was like, those are, like, yes, they're both palettes. Yes, they're both neutral-ish, but, like, there's not a single similar shade in them. Like, I think people need to, I don't think people understand color theory very well, which is very true. And not your fault, but, like, yelling about it and getting really mad is unnecessary. Okay, so question number 7 is, what is the best holiday release of the year? I didn't try that many holiday launches, but I did try a few, and I did want to mention a couple of them. So one, I really enjoyed the Melt holiday releases. So they just came out with their collab with Bailey Sarian. I think that's how you say her name. I don't follow her. I don't like that kind of content, and I could talk about that for a while. I do think the collection is really pretty, although I feel like I have very similar shades from Melt, so I felt unnecessary. But I feel like the Halloween/Christmas combo here, really well done. Some of the best shimmers they've ever done. I think they just went all out. The packaging was great. I think this was beautifully done, like IP collab. So really happy with this. Also really happy with the Hourglass holiday palettes this year. I saw some people kind of mixed about them, but I really like them. So this one is my husband's. This is the lightest, so the jellyfish inside with the owl outside, although I can use some of the shades in here. Like this pale yellow is already kind of flattening because I use it so much under my eyes as a brightening shade. I think this is really pretty. I like the fact that this year they made sure each one had a finishing powder, a highlighter, at least one blush, and a bronzer, and then, you know, mixed the rest. I do think they need to have a fourth one that's darker, 100%. But I do think that they did a really great job with these, and the packaging is really pretty. I think if you buy them every year, you probably don't need them. And I think that's the problem, is people get too collector-y and then forget that not everyone is a collector. I have 2 of last year's, and there are a couple similar shades in one of these, but they were different enough that I was fine with it. But this is my husband's. Really like this. Even I can use the bronzer and like this blush. This one's a little too cool for me. But he really likes this. It's perfect for his, you know, redhead skin tone. This is the leopard palette, but with the snake outside. It's a long story about how I got these the way they did. This one I really love. This is like a perfect medium one. So you've got a finishing powder. This was in last year. These 2 were in last year's Elephant. This one in my Elephant is really flat. I've used it a lot, so having another one, totally fine with. This is technically the same bronzer, but this is different. Like swatching them side by side, it's not the same. And I like this one more. Really love the blushes in here. Even the cool tone one I like. It's just not my favorite, but really like this. The highlighter is really blinding in this one because it's a little bright. And then I also have what was the snake palette, but now has the jellyfish outside. I just didn't like the leopard outside. Really beautiful. You've got more saturated blushes here. Really like this. This is technically a finishing powder. No, this is a bronzer. In last year's, it was a finishing powder. This is a bronzer. I can still use this. It's a little more neutral and darker, so it's a good kind of contour, but like with a little bit of a glow. So not like a true shadow. It just adds a sculpt, I should say. Really like the finishing powder here. It's more golden, so it works really well on the perimeter of my face. And then the highlighter here is a little darker and a little more golden, so it's less contrasty with my skin tone. So it looks a little more natural, and it's actually what I have on. So really love these. And I think they were a little bit, just like Pat McGrath, I think they were a little bit maligned unnecessarily. And then the last holiday thing that, oh, I have 2 holiday things. One honorable mention, because I've only used them twice, but the new Viseart holiday palettes, Cashmere Charmeuse and Violette Vespertine. These are the kind of tones that I've been wearing every day, like desaturated neutrals. So I had to get these. Really like these. I think this one also has a couple shifty shades. I will have a video of these up probably before this video, because I've used them a handful of times, and then I'm going to use them more this week before I film it. And then this is the Vespertine. I already loved the Violette palette, and this is a little bit more soft and neutral. Really like these. I think really well done. And then last for holiday, the Haus Labs palettes. These are on sale as I'm filming this for half off. And I did see some comments in there that were like, there's no pigment. There is. It's a very soft kind of cream-like formula, and I know a lot of people don't like Natasha Denona's cream to powder and other brands' cream to powder, so I think that's part of where this is coming from. Technique and brush make a big difference, but I think these are really beautiful, and if you use the right brush, they build up really well. They're really soft, they blend effortlessly. I think these are really beautiful, especially at half off, but I'm not mad that I paid, well, I didn't pay full price. I had a gift card. I got them with a gift card, so I didn't pay anything, but I think really beautiful. Shimmers are great. Yeah, I love these. I do think that the packaging could be improved. It matches the blush, bronzer, all of those, but instead of square, it's like a rectangle. But because of that, it's got this dip here, but it's still, even for me, is a little hard to open. So I could see if you have mobility issues, these would be hard. Okay, so there's 2 questions left. The next one is, what was the best collab of 2022? There weren't as many collabs this year, and I didn't really try any. So Angelica had another one, it's Odin's Eye. Heather Austin had one with Adept. Didn't buy either of those. I've never tried Adept. I didn't see as many collabs this year. Last year felt like the year of collabs, and I felt like it kind of toned down this year because of how many. This year it's been more IP. Like, IP has been a thing, but like it's really steadily increasing. But the one collab I did try and really loved is the one with Finding Ferdinand and Kaki. So Kaki, obviously another YouTuber. I don't actually know her, but she is best friends with Hope Mess Tom, and I know Hope Mess Tom. But I think this was really wonderfully done, and I'm really excited to see what they're doing for the second half of this with the more wintry tones. I have one of the shades here. This is Macchiato. It is the blush I'm wearing. Really beautiful blush formula. It's cream, but it's a little stiffer, so it melts in, and then it kind of sets to kind of a nice skin-like finish. I also have the shade Spritz, and I have the lip gloss. The lip gloss is great. Very lemony, very pretty, feels nice on the lips. Spritz is really nice, and I'm sure I'll use it a lot in the summer, but right now, this darker beige, I use this almost every day. I've been using it a lot. I really love this, and I like that the way she did the collab was 2 colors, coral and beige, and then she used her knowledge as a painter and an artist and color theory to make different versions of the same color. So I could buy Macchiato and my husband could buy whatever the pale one is, and it would be the same color on our skin tones because the level of white and the level of saturation and the level of pigment is modified so that like he could wear this and it would be a dark color, or I wear this and he wears that one and it looks like the same kind of color on our skin tone by having like those different steps. So anyone can use all of them, but there's like the one that's more native to your skin. I think it was just a really well thought out collab and just really happy with it. Okay, so the last question is, what are your predictions for releases next year? So I feel like we didn't have a lot of collabs this year, so I feel like we might start seeing more again next year. I don't think it's gonna keep staying low. I think we're gonna see some more collabs because they do sell well, they do well. You know, there's probably people started working on them last year when they were really hyped, and now they're gonna be prepared for next year. You know, I feel like that's gonna happen because they take a very long time to do. And I think generally, like, we went from super matte to very dewy, and now we're kind of in this middle ground, and I think we're gonna start seeing more like complexion products are what I like, that are just like skin-like, not overly dewy, not overly matte, kind of skin-like. I think it's gonna be a trend. It's gonna be like where things go, and I think we're gonna see more neutrals. I said this last year, and we are seeing a lot of cool neutrals this year, especially the second half of the year. It's been very cool neutrals kind of all year. And I think that's gonna kind of continue, is more like elevated neutrals with pops of color versus like super bold. You're still gonna have some very bold palettes and stuff like this come out, but I think you're gonna start seeing more like, you know, we're gonna continue seeing more like the Nomad palette that's like desaturated colors, and the Trixie palette that's, you know, warm neutrals with some pops and some sparkly duochromes. Natasha Denona Yucca, you're gonna see, you know, these more desaturated, colorful tones and off neutrals. Neutrals for me, but not neutrals, not necessarily the neutrals a pale white person's gonna pick. I think you're gonna see more of that, and I'm excited for that because I think that's where my makeup preferences kind of land, and I can kind of see trends going that way in releases, and so I'm excited to see what happens next year. Okay, so those are the questions. Those are all 9. Let me know what you think of my answers. If you don't have a YouTube channel and you can't film something like this, I'd love to hear your answers in the comments, like what you think is gonna happen next year, what you think were the best things, what lived up to the hype. I'd love to hear your responses. Part of why I like having a channel is seeing your responses in the comments and talking to you. So let me know what you think down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.